his blessed will. We'll see this morning that not only do we have choices in life, but God, he works in our lives. In Proverbs 16, verse number 9, the Bible says, man makes plans, but God directs his steps. We'll see that this morning. Where God was directing his people, but they had to still do his will, and God, he blesses them. He blesses their efforts. And when we put forth an effort, God blesses that effort. And Paul would say it like this. In Ephesians chapter 3, verse number 20, and unto him who is able to do exceeding abundantly more than we can ask or think through the power that works in us. He blesses our efforts. That's why we must do something. We must keep moving, and we must keep moving toward God. We must keep trusting God. And so we find ourselves in Joshua chapter 24. Remember, this is the same Joshua that had spied out the land in Numbers chapter 11 through 14. He had spied out the land, and he was one of the positive spies that had come back. He came back and said that God is right about it. There's fruit in the land, the Canaan land. It's a land that flows with milk and honey. God is always right about it. And when he came back, there were 10 negative spies and 2 positive spies. Joshua and Caleb, they were positive. The other spies had got discouraged. They said, no, there's giants over there. But God is bigger than any giant. He's bigger than any problem in our lives. Sometimes we forget that. There's giants over there. And we're like grasshoppers in their eyes. Sometimes we think of how people are looking at us. Don't worry about how people are looking at us. Just be concerned about how God is looking at us. Right. We're as grasshoppers. Sometimes we have a low self-esteem about ourselves. I say to people all the time, don't marry or don't date on your self-esteem. Date on your self-worth. You date on your self-esteem, you'll go wrong every time. Hopefully I'm helping somebody, amen. And so, Joshua 24, verse number 15 and following. He was with that group of spies that did not want to go in the land, and God had already had given them everything they need. Caleb said, they are bread for us. God has fixed this thing up where we can conquer the land. All we have to do is just go up at once, but we just need the faith. We need the faith to do it. Right. And Caleb, he echoed what Paul says in the New Testament in Romans chapter 8, verse number 31, where it says, if God be for us, who can be against us? If God is in your equation and my equation, there's nothing too impossible for God. So he says here, Numbers chapter 14, you all know what happened. God was discouraged with them. Like he's discouraged with us when we have a lack of faith. He was discouraged with them. It's okay, trip cancel. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to destroy them all. And Moses, he pleaded with them. He interceded for them. He said, Lord, no, if you do that, they'll stay. The nations around them would say that God cannot even bring them over into the promised land. People are saying that in our own lives. You mean to tell me all that you're going through now that you don't have enough faith in God to feel like you're going to get through? And if you don't get through, don't you know God is going to give you the strength to handle whatever happens afterwards? Did you read somewhere where the 3 Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, said, we know God is able to do it, but if he doesn't, we'll still trust him. So here, this is the Joshua that we're talking about. This is the Joshua in Joshua chapter 1, verse number 2 and following. After Moses had died, Joshua is taken over. He would take them over into the promised land. But now, Joshua, he's there. They're there. They have conquered the land, and it wasn't an easy task. You know, a lot of things in life It's not easy, but it's better when the Lord is with you, when the Lord is on your side. He was always there. We'll see here in the passage of Scripture that he has always been there, and he'll always be there with us. It is verse number 14 now, this Joshua that we're talking about, that going to be the chairman of the meeting, if you will, as he calls them together. Joshua 24, verse number 14. Now, therefore, fear the Lord. Fear the Lord. That wording is found about 50 times in the Bible. It is have respect for the Lord, like respect for your parents. Honor the Lord. Honor your parents. Fear the Lord. The beginning of wisdom is to fear the Lord. You find a person that does not fear the Lord, you need to run away from them as soon as possible, quick as possible. We find here and serve him. What else we must do, Joshua? And serve him with sincerity and in truth. We see that in the New Testament. In John chapter 4, verse number 24, God is the Spirit. They that worship him must worship him in the Spirit and in truth. Romans chapter 16, verse number 17, from the heart you have obeyed this form of doctrine. And so you find on your outline our first point. We have been given the gift of choice. We've been given the gift of choice because Joshua is going to tell them that you have a choice. God has not made us robots. Here he says, fear the Lord.
Happy Wednesday, hump day. My name is Tobie Famusipe. Welcome to Mind of a Man, together with my co-host, General James Jones, and our producer on the back end, Mr. Courtney Clark. Courtney, you're going to talk today, by the way, just to give you a heads up. And today, this is part 2 of our show from last week, Finance in a Relationship. Part 2, and Miss Tarra Jackson, our guest. We are so happy that you're coming back for more, to give us some education when it comes to finance and relationships. And ladies and gentlemen, like I said last week, this lady started off the show, and I learned so much in under 5 minutes what she was spewing out. And I had to write down some of the stuff that she was spewing out because, my God, I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it. It says lesson learned. Even the general was taken aback because she was dropping knowledge. So, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Tarra is here. And Miss Tarra, we can pick up from where we left off last week. James, do you have any questions for her? Let's start there. Oh, by the way, real quick, if there was any questions out there, our producer, can you please let us know in the box so we can answer those questions? James, you got the ball.
Well, hello to y'all too. And mind you, everyone, I'm back, not because they asked me, because they told me during the show last week, we're going to have part 2 and she's coming back. And I'm like, oh, I am? So that is why I am back. So thank you for having me back, y'all.
Producers said she did a heck of a job. We got to bring her back. And I was all for it because I want to learn more. I know she got some more tools. She got some more stuff to school us when it comes to finances in a relationship.
And people need to know that you all are extremely organic. Like, you all didn't send me any questions. I have no idea what you all are going to ask me for part 2. So this is going to be a real conversation. There's no prep involved. It is what it is.
There's no prep. There's more transparency here. We know, we're all adults here. You know, if we ask a question, you know how to answer it. We've been on this earth for a little bit now, so we know how to handle ourselves in certain situations, in certain cases and stuff. So we know. So we empowered you on the show, Miss Tarra, with your wisdom and knowledge, not just to share, to teach us here today, but to actually teach the entire platform of all our viewers. And, the knowledge that you have, we're grateful for the knowledge that you have because you're sharing this knowledge and you're forwarding the blessings of your knowledge. You're forwarding it to others. I'm
And
really grateful for that.
I appreciate
James.
the platform.
James, fired up. Let's go. You're mute. You're mute. He's on mute. Oh my goodness. He's on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. Mute. There he goes.
I heard you. I heard you. I heard you. I was saying, I believe the subject was leadership and finance. I think that was the
leadership
topic
and finance.
Right.
I had finance and relationship. Close, but we get the gist.
I don't get an award for that one. Okay.
Oh, you get an award? Oh, you're the general. You're the general.
This week, I was listening to something, Miss Jackson, that was very interesting to me, and it had to do with I think his name is Donald Hawkins, and it was about finance and in the digital content, and about people of color and dealing with the digital content of finance in that aspect. How does it actually look for us who only have 1%, and I believe you talked about this about your son, 1.6% of us do stock, but yet in Bitcoin, it was just outrageous of how many of us got, how many people got taken from that particular situation. And with generational Zs and that's coming along who are real digital savvy, what does that look like for us who are older and handling our finances in a digital content world?
Well, let's go back to what you originally said about the Bitcoin and how we've been perceived to have been taken. I don't know that we got taken, as far as more black people got taken. I don't see it that way. I know that the Bitcoin and all of them, they did a strategy several years ago, at least 10 years ago, with a network marketing strategy. They had a network marketing strategy. There was a network marketing company that got people into Bitcoin to teach other people about it and to get other people to not only sign up for the company, but also to get involved in Bitcoin when it was really cheaper. And there it was like really, really cheap. You can get in. And then we see that it went to like $50,000 a Bitcoin. So there's a lot of people that made a lot of money. There's a lot of people that came in on the end point when it got really popular, because that's what we do, unfortunately. We get in when it's really popping and popular, and that's when it costs more. And so when we put more into it, and then all of a sudden it falls, and dips, then we lose the most money because we paid the most money to get into the game. What a lot of us that don't look like us, what they do is they get in when it's cheap, right? When it's starting. So when it hits that major mark. So if it, I got in at 1,000 and it's 50,000 because it's going 30,000, it didn't hurt me that much. It hurt a lot, but I still made, 30,000 per Bitcoin, just per se. But a lot of us got in when it was like 48, 49. It kept going. And then all of a sudden it started crashing. I'm not a Bitcoin person. I'm not a Bitcoin fan. I always say that I don't know enough about Bitcoin and how to spend it, how it's doing. So if I don't understand it, I'm probably not going to get that emotionally involved in it or go into it. I have invested in some Bitcoin, but I only invest in things like that I can afford to lose. Right. So if I put $500 in Bitcoin, it's because I probably would have bought something for $500 that would have been a depreciating asset anyway. So it's not going to hurt me for investing into this Bitcoin. A lot of people are investing money that out of their savings or out of their money that they needed. And so when they lose it, that's when it starts hurting, right? So that's one of the lessons. If you're not quite sure about it, but you want to get into it to get your feet wet, only invest what you can afford to lose, because that's the name of the game of stocks. Your reward is relative to the risk. And the higher the risk, the higher the reward, but the higher the failure rate is as well, right? Now, as far as millennials and coming up in this realm, and with us as more mature, more seasoned, more marinated financial managers, if you will, I had to put it that way because I am not old. I am too cute to be old. So,
I hear that.
you know, I may be a little marinated, but I'm not old. So, you know, there is a new age that is fintech, you know, and that's the financial technology. And a lot of people don't understand it. They think fintech is a financial institution. But for example, Greenwood is not necessarily a bank, it's a fintech company, right? And so they provide financial tools through technology. Now, they may provide a debit card, they may provide this, but a lot of people are expecting the same type of services and products and services from that organization, but they're not like a Bank of America. They weren't built that way. They don't even want to be that way. And the reason why is because they don't want to deal with the federal regulations. They don't want to deal with the regulations. So it's better to be a fintech company, provide technological tools to enhance your financial experience or how you use money than it is to be an actual fiduciary. Right. So with us, we just have to, you know, gravitate and understand the difference. You know, if you don't understand it, you know, learn it. A lot of people, a lot of investors, really good investors, they are active learners. They seek to understand, to be understood. Most spenders, we don't like to do a lot of research. We see it, we want it, we buy it. There's no researching, let me find the best deal. Savers are usually good at finding savings and all that, but they hate risk, right? And so they're not looking for investment tools and everything. They're looking for ways, how can I still grow my money for the most bang for my buck and not lose it or lose too much of it? Right. So if we want to get in that game and we start learning the language of investing, we have to start understanding those different tools that are out there, because those fintech tools are what's going to be in the future. It's not going to be a lot of, you know, financial banks that we're going to go to. It costs them too much money. You know, as a former CEO of a financial institution, you know, it costs a hell of a lot of money to have brick and mortar and then have multiple brick and mortars, you know, and it's more conducive for me as the financial institution CEO to figure out how to leverage fintech, because I know everybody has one of these. And how can I get them to do transactions through the phone, through their computer, through digital, than to walk into a facility that's going to cost me more? Because what a lot of people don't really understand, even with credit unions, they're not nonprofit organizations. They are for-profit organizations. Their job is to make money. And the more expenses the financial institutions have to pay, like the brick and mortars, to accommodate us more mature people that want to go in the financial institution to withdraw and cash checks and all of that, you know, that's when it's going to still cost us more money for interest on loans and credit cards, and less money on the savings and CDs and money markets and all that, right? Prime example, I have this check that I got from another financial institution, right? It's been sitting here on my desk for the past 2 weeks. One, because I hate going into financial institutions. And then I remember the credit union that I have, they have an app now where I can scan the check. It just hit me today. Like, I don't even have to go in there. I can scan my check and have it deposit into my account. That's part of fintech. To make it more convenient, not only for us as consumers, but also convenient for the financial institution, so they can give us back more of that money.
Making everything economical for both the customer and the provider.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to think about a lot of it. It's almost like a Blockbuster thing, right? There used to be a Blockbuster on every corner. We don't need Blockbuster anymore. We got Netflix, and then look, Comcast is doing the same thing. They're going digital subscriptions. They want you to pay everything online. You have to see where everything is going. Everything is going into a digital realm. So a lot of the younger people, they understand fintech. They're leveraging fintech. They're using fintech. What we also need them to understand is kind of the primal financial management of it. Even though you're not balancing a checkbook, you still got to learn how to balance your account, even though you've done everything online, you know, debit cards or whatever. Nowadays, you don't even need debit cards. You got Apple Pay, Google Pay.
So, being that it is so, right? My next question to you would be like this, and it's for my man Tobie.
Tobie can't speak for himself. It's for
Tobie
you.
can't
It's
speak
for
for
you,
himself
boo.
this go round.
He
For my
doesn't
man, for my
no,
man Tobie.
No, this is how the general gets me. He gets me every show. That's okay. I was ready for it though. I'm ready for it.
Okay, we won't use Tobie. This is for my man, our producer, Courtney.
Courtney.
Okay, so what do you do now these days when there are wonderful people out there who have real jacked up credit?
We'll call it colorful credit.
You call it colorful credit? Okay, colorful
it may
credit.
be black and blue, but it's colorful.
Yeah, it's gotten drugged. And you want to get with this individual, and you come to find out it's more advantageous for you to be together but keep your finances apart. How does that work? Because if that person, i.e., if they get married or they start sharing things together, putting their names down on an application, it starts bringing one down and the other one doesn't hardly come up that much. What do you do in that situation?
I mean, it really depends. Again, everything depends on the type of relationship you have, the type of communication, the type of people that you are, right? So,
Right.
And for me, I really don't care what their credit score is. I need to understand what's happening inside of the credit. I got to read the book, right? Because there may be information that's incorrect. It may be outdated information. It may be a very large loan that may make me rethink the entire relationship. You know what I mean? I'm like, whoa, we might need to rethink about this, right? And that's the conversation you need to have before you get married. Now, if this happened after you got married, that's a whole other marriage counseling session, right?
Exactly.
But before you get married, you kind of want to look at each other's credit, and there's a story behind everything, right? Could have lost your job. You just could be bad at dealing with money. You could have just said, you could have been that person that says, I'm gonna get as much credit as I have with no intention of paying. If you are with that person, run, don't walk, run the hell away from them, okay?
Right.
Because that's probably going to filter in other things of their lives. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
But if you're going to keep things separate, you have to have that agreement up front. What's going to become separate, right? You may have a joint savings account or joint checking account, but nothing else. And that joint checking account is for household bills only. Or you may decide you're going to pay the mortgage, you're going to pay for everything else, and you keep everything separate. If that is the way it's going to work out for you. If you're going to do that and keep everything separate, don't file joint taxes. Okay? Don't do it. You know, you might want to file, because if they owe taxes and you're on that taxes, they're going to probably come after you too. So you want to speak with an accountant that can talk you through, how do we keep this separate? Now, some families work, couples work very well with separating everything financially. Some couples do not. They put everything together. They fix it together. You have bad credit. Let me help you fix it. We're not going to do loans together, but let me help you get to where you need to be so that we can think about commingling our credit, right? But it really depends on the situation. And I hate having to say it depends, but it's like going to the doctor. You don't want the same diagnosis as someone else who has different symptoms. It's really not the same. It would do you disservice. But, sometimes it works for some people and it works the best thing ever. And, you're over here, sometimes you need to sleep in separate rooms and it's okay. You come together when you need to. And then I don't need to hear you snore. I don't need to smell you fart. I don't need that. So we can stay in separate rooms. And that works for some couples. Some couples, I wish you would sleep in another room.
Wow.
I've seen that. I've seen that with my grandfather. And I for the life of me, I didn't know how they made it, but they paid separate bills all the time. And I was shocked to know that. And I was, for FYI, Tobie, I was one of those guys with that blue and black credit score. I got drugged.
Colorful credit.
I promise you, I did not know anything about credit. I was just like, I got it. I can spend it. Oh, you want to give me something on credit? Didn't even know how credit worked. Sure. When I woke up from that long stretch of being drugged for so long, for so many years, I was like, good Lord.
Oh, I got to pay this back?
Like, yeah. And then he's like, look, we won't even give you a loan to buy a pair of socks. You have to pay this off, this off. You see that 800 number right there? They're waiting for you to call them. And they sent me the report for my credit. And I was like, how do you read this? What is this? And it was all these people on there who I had not a clue about until I called them. And it's like, oh, this store has your account. This is how much you owe. I'm like, how do I begin to start paying this? And I told someone in my leadership, and he said, look, man, start paying the cheapest thing off that you can afford to pay off first. And then after you slowly get those little ones out of the way, he says, then call the big one and make arrangements for them.
Or negotiate it. If it's in collections, you can negotiate it. It's called settling the debt.
Right. I didn't know about that neither until I promise you, for all my listeners out there, men, your frontal lobe do not develop until you're 25. But be around wise people so you can be wise as well. You can get
James,
some
I would love to say that it's all your fault and you should have known better, but you kind of didn't, because you have to think about who taught you about credit. Your parents probably didn't do it because they didn't talk about money with you. And sometimes parents can't teach what they don't know. Sometimes they know it, but they don't feel that it's their place for you or your place to know the financial situation of the home. So they, inadvertently teach you about money and finances by not teaching you. And you learn all the bad habits because of what you see, not necessarily what you learn. And then they don't teach it in the schools. Right. You know what I'm saying? Not for real. And then they don't even teach it in the church. The only time you really hear about money is when it's time for offering. Right. So that's why I do a lot of financial literacy ministry building in churches, because if we're not going to get it at home, we're not going to get it at school, we got to get it in the church. At least tell me what God says about money. Help us out. You tell me everything else. You tell me I can't have sex, I can't steal, I can't kill. Come on, tell me a little bit about what I can do with money.
Exactly. Because we do want you to look real fine when y'all come up in the church now.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of people that look really sexy in the church. They looking really funky, with their credit. I mean, that's why I wrote Financial Fornication. We all need to be delivered. You know, everybody trying to judge everybody. The church is for the sick, not just spiritually, but financially, physically. There's a lot of us dealing with the stress of finances. And why are we stressed? What we going to do? We need Jesus. We're going to go to church. Come on. It's the hub.
No practical application to that one.
Exactly.
My man Tobie, do you have anything?
Not yet.
Come on, Tobie.
Not yet.
Look, it's the Falcon jersey. Maybe you want to take it off and put Ohio on.
Wow. Wow, don't get him in trouble like that today. Don't do
get
that.
him in trouble. Okay. So
what would you tell someone right now on if they're having financial depression? What would you tell them? What would you advise them to do on what are the steps they need to do to get out of it? Either when they're in, for those, let's start with those. It's a two-part question for those in a relationship and those who are not in a relationship.
Okay, so you're dealing with the financial depression when you're in a relationship. Now, who's causing the financial depression? Is your spouse? or you just financially depressed because
you can't put money away the way that you want to, because you're using your funds to put out fires. I'm talking this on behalf of people who are out there who are going through this right now and they don't know which way to go.
Well, the first thing is you have to acknowledge it. Everything comes with acknowledging. Like, you can't get healed if you don't acknowledge that you're sick, right? So you have to first acknowledge that you're dealing with some financial issues that you cannot mentally absorb or grasp or handle, or physically handle, or financially handle. The second thing, you do need to talk to someone about that. Even if it's a third party, like I do a lot of financial counseling, because they just need to talk it out. They don't understand why this happens, and every time they do this happens, and all of that, right? One thing I can tell you that I'm a believer in the law of attraction. So a lot of times the things that are brought onto us is because the things that go on in our mind and what we say with our mouth. Our mouths get us in trouble. When we keep saying, oh, I'm broke. Well, the universe is going to perpetuate situations that's going to keep you broke. So, faith says, that you speak those things that are not as though they were. So I speak prosperity, abundance, opulence, more than enough. Money comes to me like the air I breathe, frequently, abundantly, and effortlessly. You know what I'm saying? So you have to speak that. You have to change your mindset, but you can only do that. That's where those affirmations come in. Even if you don't believe it, you have to do it. But most importantly, you got to get help, because a lot of people are suffering in silence. And that's where the depression comes in, because they feel like nobody else understands, nobody else is dealing with this. And I can tell you, I've dealt with every financial trauma you can think of, every financial death other than bankruptcy that you can think of. I dealt with all of them. But what Jesus did teach us is that there's resurrection, right? So if anything else goes wrong, I know that if I financially die, if, whatever happens, there is resurrection for that. You can rebound with your finances. But sometimes you only have what's in your brain, and you need to talk to someone that can expand your perspective, give you other options, give you other resources. There may be resources that can help you.
Okay. Now that is for the ones in a relationship. What about the ones that's not in a relationship?
It's the same thing. You have to.
It applies.
Yeah. The difference is that who is causing the financial depression? Is it you and your behavior, or is it someone's behavior that's taking the money away from you that's causing you stress? You know what I'm saying? Is there someone that's helping to perpetuate the financial trauma? Okay. That's the biggest difference. And if that is someone else that's helping to cause that trauma, then there needs to be some form of conversation. And if you can't have that conversation, then you need to go to a counselor, pastor, or something like that. I do financial marriage counseling. Well, the marriage counselors call me in to do the financial counseling, because sometimes the husband and the wife are speaking two different financial languages. So I have to interpret, and then I have to translate. And that's why I wrote the book, The 4 Financial Languages, so that people understand the different financial languages and how to communicate with one another, and then how to be fiscally bilingual and speak other financial languages when it serves you. So a lot of times, a saver will tell a spender, you can't spend, we're on a budget. And the spender's like, I wish you would tell me I can't spend my money. And they spend more money, which causes the savers more stress. You know what I'm saying? So you have to, it may not be the spouse that's causing a problem. It could be the family. They're always tapping into, there's always a fire. You're always the one helping. It could be your job. They furloughed. Or they laid you off, or cutting hours, or whatever. It could be so many different factors. But if you have someone and you're in a relationship with, where you all can team up and fight it together, you have a better chance of winning than only one person fighting. It's like one person fighting for the marriage and the other one has given up. How is that going to work out? But if you're single, you have got to, one, you need to get my book, 4 Financial Languages. All of y'all need to get that. But 2, you really need to talk to someone, get an accountability partner, get with a group, join a financial group. Hell, join my Madam Money University,
What's that now? Hold on. You got to back up now. Madam what?
Madam Money University. It's a Madam Money University. It's a group on Facebook. You all can ask me any financial questions that you want, There's several different resources, like my girl budgetnista, Tiffany Elise. She has to live richer. You know, Tiffany has been doing amazing. You know, when she first started, we started promoting that. That is helpful. She provides a lot of free resources. She has a university. My Fab Finance, Tony Rapley. She has some great resources out there. There's so many of us that look like us that are talking this money game that can give you different perspectives. Because as much as people love to say that I've been through the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University, I really think that it's culturally deaf in some cases. It does not speak to me as a Black single mother raising kids. It doesn't speak to me as far as culture is concerned. I don't necessarily have, you know, someone in my family that I can go to and ask for $10,000. I don't know where they are. I wish I could find them. But you know what I mean? So our culture is just different. So there are people out there that understand us, that look like us, that speak like us, that can communicate to us in our situation, that can help elevate us financially.
Okay. One last question.
Okay.
What do you do in a situation where you have a couple who are like so egotistical, their egos are so high that one doesn't want to bow for each other or accept the other's thoughts when it comes to finances and how it should be done in the house? How do you, if a couple comes to you and you could tell that their egos are so high, like, okay, but they know they need help. How do you break that down for them to understand, to have financial harmony among each other?
Well, first of all, if they are that egotistical and they don't listen to each other, it's probably just not about money. That's probably throughout the relationship. Right. Okay. So that's something that has to be dealt with. Now, if it's the situation, because I can hear this whole conversation as you were talking about these two people, I heard this whole financial situation. Look, I make my money. I can spend my money the way I want to. I make just as much money as you do. That means I can spend, well, we got to do this household. Well, I'm doing the household. I'm paying my part. You need to pay more of your part. Why I got to pay more of my part? So I can hear that whole banter going on and on and on, and neither one of them wants to yield because they believe that they're right.
And that is happening in a lot of families. I'll take note of that.
It is, but that is not a financial issue. That is a communication issue between that couple. Do they really need to be married? Because married is not just about, it's all about me, it's all about me. Sometimes it's all about me, sometimes it's all about you, and sometimes it's all about us. And if they're not willing to come to all about us, it's probably not going to make it. And it's not just about the money. The money is one of the catalysts. The money is probably, showing it more, but they're probably that way when they're communicating about other things. I haven't seen a couple that says, oh, we're perfect and we're great and we love each other. We compromise on everything except money. And if it is because it's just about money, it's because they're speaking two different languages. They probably want the same thing, probably hoping for the same thing, but because they're speaking different languages, it's a saver, it's a saver and a spender, a saver and an investor. It's those people that they're arguing because they're taking away each other's power by what they say, right? If a spender keeps saying, why won't you just spend your money? You need to spend your money. The power for the saver is the safety, security, and control of their savings growing and growing and growing, because what if something happens? At least we have something. And so if they keep getting bangered by, that's a new word, banger. If they keep getting banged by the spender to spend money, they're going to get scared that spender is going to spend their money. So they're going to start hiding money. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a point where they're going to ask you, somebody's going to ask them for money and they're going to be like, I ain't got none. What do you mean? You always got money. Nope, I don't have none for you. And you even look in the bank account and there's no money there. It's probably because they put it in another account that you don't know about. And that's when it starts getting scary, because if they start hiding money, that, perpetuates a whole other things that they'll keep from them, So that's why I used to do this. Don't judge me. I've repented, turned from my wicked ways. But I was dating a saver And I used to like to buy a lot of stuff. I'm a spender. That's what we do. Maybe feel good, right? Buy a whole bunch of stuff. And so when my boyfriend at the time kept saying, why are you always buying some stuff? Something you always buying some stuff. You know, we need to save. We're trying to get married. We're trying to do this. Okay. So I no longer brought stuff home in bags. I no longer had things delivered to the house. They got delivered to my job. I might have even had things delivered or told my girlfriend, just keep this in my house and then bring it over and act like you gave it to me, because I did not want to hear his mouth. Didn't change my spending. I just had to hide stuff. So that's what happens with a lot of people when it's just finances. It begins something that they really don't want to get into, and that's that hiding. They get, it's called financial infidelity.
Ooh, a ton of knowledge. A ton of knowledge.
And you can also go get my book, Financial Fornication. I'm just saying.
Financial Fornication. Okay. James, I think she answered all my questions. So you got balls back to you.
Okay. Miss Jackson. Starting off with financial literacy, what is the earliest time, i.e. children should start off, we should teach our children about not only savings, but about stocks and bonds and securities?
Well, securities is a little deep, but you can, I always say, once a child understands the concept of money, that if they give this, it will get them something. That's when you have to start teaching them how to manage. And I usually teach them with a bucket system. The bucket system for you parents out there with small children is that you give them, say, 4 buckets. Mm-hmm. They get to name what those buckets are for. One could be for toys. One could be for giving. One could be for savings. One could be for something else, right? But they get to determine what those 4 buckets are for. And every time they get money, they have to split it up 4 ways. So if they get $1, they put a quarter in each bucket, right? And they build up those buckets until they have what their goal is, so they can buy the toy, or they can give, or it's building up for their savings. They can put it in a savings account or whatever. You're teaching them the mindset of budgeting in a very elementary way, because our buckets are a lot. And they have percentages that are tied to it usually, right? And it's very complicated. One 8th grader asked me, this is easy. Why doesn't my mommy do that? That was a whole other conversation. But you teach them there. Now, once you, like with my son, I think my son wanted an Xbox. No, he wanted some Jordans. He wanted some Nike Air Jordans. And I think they were like $200. One, I was like, ain't no way in hell I'm paying $200 for no sneakers for a less than a 10-year, like a 10-year-old. Are you kidding me? So what I told him is like, look, you save up enough money from your birthday, Christmas, and all that to buy 4 stocks, because we looked at, is Nike a publicly traded company? Yes, it is. Okay, great. So in order to own it, you need 1 share. So how much is 1 share? At the time, I think it was less than $50. So I said, okay, so, and I'm going to help you. But if those $200 shoes, that means we got to get 4 shares. We got to get 4 stocks, 4 shares of stock. And so, he saved money. Whatever he saved, I matched him to a point where he got $200. And when he got $200, we went on the Robinhood app and we bought 4 shares of the stock, right? So now he owns Nike. He is an owner. He's a shareholder of Nike. Right. So I had no problem buying sneakers from a company that he owned. Right. So now I'm teaching him ownership. Right.
Right.
So, and I said, every time everybody buys shoes, that means when the stock goes higher, right now it's at 48. So if it goes to 58, that means you're making more money.
Right.
So now you can show off those sneakers and tell everybody you got some, Air Jordan sneakers to encourage other people to buy them sneakers, because we want that stock to go up. The other thing we did a stock scavenger hunt. we went around every time we go grocery shopping and we look around the house, what are the items that we buy the most frequently? Toilet paper, cereal, whatever. Are the companies that make those, are they publicly traded companies? If they are, how much are the stock? And a lot of them are really cheap, General's Mills and all of those things. So we found out, we got the 3 stocks that we bought the most, and we bought 1 or 2 shares of those. And so every time we went grocery shopping, now we would buy those because we're buying companies that we own. So that gets them in a habit of understanding ownership. Right. And the great thing about it, Acorn came out, and now you can just do $5 a week, $5 a month. It's no excuse not to start investing. So we didn't get into complex type things, of securities and all of that. It's just the basic of understanding when you buy this share of stock for this company, that means you're a part owner, maybe fraction of a percent or whatever, but you're still an owner.
Right.
So when they make more money, you make more money, right? If they lose money, you potentially can lose money. And now we need to understand why. Because when Nike stock went down, because I own some Nike stock. So when Nike stock went down and it started going down, I needed to know why. One was the Kaepernick thing, but then it shot back up. Another one, there were several different things, but he understood that, okay, with these events, it's not just what's happening with Nike. It could be something that's happening globally, that's happening with the market. The market's just tanking or whatever. It could be because of the pandemic. It could be because, it's just a seasonal type thing. A lot of downturns in the market are cyclical. That means it happens in a cycle. Right. So, recession is cyclical. It happens a couple of years. We're just due for one. We're past due for one. That's all that is.
So, do you think, what are those? The clubs, the stock clubs, where they all get together and they put their money in and then they vote on X amount of stock. We're going to put X amount of shares in there. And do you think those are good for couples who starting out, who don't know, or should they go into, I think they call slices, if I'm not mistaken, where you buy pieces of stock?
I mean, you can go both ways. If you can find an investing group that you trust, what I was trying to put out. Investors group that you trust. This is what I have been trying to get a lot of people to do, even with my family, is that a lot of people have family reunions, right?
Right.
And a lot of people have, they've kind of fell back on the family reunions, don't have it as much. My thing is, you should still have family reunions, but every other year, instead of having a family reunion, you should create an investment club for the family, or a stock fund for the family, or whatever, right? And consult. I always say consult with an investment advisor. Okay, always consult with an investment advisor. They're the ones that's going to control the money. They're going to invest and everything, and vote on who the investment advisor is going to be. It's not Nadine them. It's not going to be a family member, even though they may be, a part of that. What's that group? Oh my God, what was that group that kept trying to get me to do that? Is insurance. I can't remember who they are, but it's not them. It's an external person that will manage that. But the family gets to determine how much money they're going to invest, either annually, quarterly, monthly, into this fund. And every year when it's time to do, the family reunion, you have a family financial meeting to determine what stocks you're going to invest in. Are you going to invest in stocks? Are you going to invest in mutual funds? Maybe you want to invest in a REIT, a real estate investment trust. Maybe ultimately your family wants to create a scholarship fund. And how are you going to do that? That for the children. So I believe that if we start having those financial conversations as a family unit, and so when we meet in person on family, we have those financial meetings, and the other year we invest into the fund. And you do that for several years, because now you're leaving legacies. You're teaching children that are learning from the elders of the family that this is normal. This is what we do. We talk about money. We talk about credit. One of my girlfriends, Bernadette Harris, I spoke at her family reunion, and they wanted to teach their family about personal finance and credit. And every year when they do the family reunion, they learn something different about finances. Even though she's the ultimate accountant, she still has other people coming in to talk about different aspects of finances, including investing, cryptocurrency, real estate investing, savings, all of that stuff. And incorporate that in your family reunions. You'd be amazed at what kind of legacy you can bring forth for your families.
Let me go over here and give you a big old hug because you deserve that one.
I'll take it.
What you just said right there, I'm a starch proponent of, and you brought a great idea for families, period. It doesn't even have to be a family reunion. That right there was worth every bit of all of our conversation to prepare another generation. Something that I've never received, but what you just said right there, I love that idea. Matter of fact, it's not about stealing that idea. I'm going to use it and I'm going to pass that along because that right there is something where one person or the couple in the entire family who might be financially strong does not have to support the whole entire generational gap, but everybody can get their hands involved and everybody can do something which will help the family financially become financially literate.
Mm-hmm. One of the things and I'll tell you some of the challenges that I face with some families where I've done that. Some families felt that they didn't want to do like the credit, understanding credit. I call it CREAM. Credit rules everything around me.
Ooh,
so I teach them about credit, right?
Not cash.
Credit. Yes, credit, right? And so a lot of family members don't want other family members that know that they have colorful credit, right? Even though they already know y'all. So I'm just saying. But they don't even know my business or whatever, right? Yeah. So we do an anonymous question and answer, right? So they either give me the questions beforehand and I'll address certain scenarios in the presentation, or during the Q&A, they can write their questions and just put it in a box. And it's usually a lock box. And then when it's time for Q&A, I'll open it and then I'll answer the questions that way. So people, you don't know who asked the questions. I may rephrase it or whatever. But find someone who can have those type of conversations with the entire family without ostracizing certain family members. Even though you may think who asked that question, it's really not about that, because it may be multiple people in the room that ask the same question. And usually even if one person said, I got this question at least 4 times and I'm going to address this. Even though one person may have asked it, I'm going to make it sound like more people wanted to know this, to open people up with that. Also find someone who makes it fun. I hate sitting down and being lectured to. I will fall asleep on you. I will go to the bathroom and never come back. If they offer drinks, I will probably be drunk by the time of end of your presentation. So I like to keep families engaged. We're getting up, we're going around the room, we're having fun, we're, all of that. I do like with the CREAM, and it's usually for high school and college graduates, but I've done it at family reunions. The CREAM, we do a game called Loan Shark after Shark Tank, right? Okay. And there's 3 or 4 sharks who are giving out these loans. It's like they're acting as financial institutions, and I'm giving each group a scenario. So one person has an 800 credit score, but it's only because they have student loans, but they've never paid for any credit and they're only like 21, right? So the credit score is good, but are they a good credit risk? We don't know, right? What I'm saying could be someone that has a 599 score. They have a lot of great credit, but they just lost their job. Now they have a new job and they're trying to rebuild, so each person has to do a presentation, and the sharks have to determine if they would give them the loan, and they'll tell them if they're in or if they're out. And it's getting everybody involved, and it reinforces the learning. I say that to say, find someone that doesn't do what I do, but makes it very engaging and fun for the family, because the family be like, yo, we ain't doing this no more. And
Right.
and don't be afraid to pay the person to come out and teach. Black folks, we always want free stuff, but you get what you pay for, even when it's free.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I promise you, I promise you, the 2000 Tarra is way different than the free Tarra.
Right.
2000 Tarra is coming. 2000 Tarra probably coming. I'm not saying that costs 2000 for families. That's negotiable. But I'm saying if you want free, I ain't coming out there. We doing virtual. You know what I'm saying? I gotta really like your butt, and y'all buying a whole hell of a lot of books. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, but yeah, I encourage families to really tie that in some way with their family reunion, or even with their close proximity family. You know, you may have a group of family members. My family likes to party. We have the best parties, and so sometimes that parties just need to be a financial party. You know what? I'll tell my uncle that. Uncle Daryl, if you're watching, we're gonna do that. Look at God.
Always.
That was awesome. Tobie, you have anything, my brother? I know you wrote that down.
I did.
You going? Hey, Miss Jackson, he probably gonna scoop you up, ask you, can you go to Logos with him so you can sit down and talk to his whole family?
Hey,
so they can start investing.
I got my passport, and if you paying, I'm flying.
Tobie, you hear that?
Yeah.
Tobie's ready to go. He's like, that's the best thing since sliced bread he ever heard.
I get it, and this is really insightful, really insightful. How to deal with egotistical couples. It stems, and I believe that now. I haven't looked at it from that perspective. It's more than just the money. You know, I never thought of that, because I've seen couples, they fight, and it's been consistent when it comes to money. Who's doing this? Who's doing that? You're spending money on this. You're spending money frivolously, you know, and, you know, you're not taking care of the house like you should. Bills are late, this and that. And ain't like you don't have the money. You do. These are things that I'm hearing from pockets of couples that I know. And it's all stemmed from money. Well, the truth is, in actuality, based on what you've taught us today, it's more than the money.
It's probably more than money. If it's just about the money, then it's a communication issue. You know, it's it's a financial language issue.
And they allow their egos to get in the way, and not actually listening to each other.
They're too mad. You know what I'm saying? They're too mad, and so they either need someone to, you know, come in and say, "Time out." Okay, what are you saying? What are you saying? Interpret and then translate, so that they understand that she's not saying you're wrong. He's not saying you're wrong. They're just saying, this is what we need, and how can we get this together? You know, I teach couples how to have money dates. Money dates is not just sitting at a table and talking about bills. Money dates is literally going out on a date, you know, having some fun. It involves intimacy, because when you're intimate with your partner, you open up chakras. And if people don't understand chakras, just go look it up. But you open yourself, and you're more compromising, you know, as far as, okay, let me listen to what you're saying after you've had that intimate moment. It doesn't have to be sex. It could just be hugging each other. It could just be in each other's presence. It's just enjoying each other's space. And then really talking about your goals. What do you want as a couple, as a family? You know, and everything that you want is probably going to cost money, right? So how are we going to get there? You know, I really would love to go on a vacation. So how can we get there? How can we make that vacation happen? And then you'll probably see, well, you know what? I could probably put more money aside for that, because spenders will save on purpose. We'll save to spend. So if it's like, we're going to go on this massive vacation, but we got to save this amount of money, I will save that money to spend the money to go on my vacation. I promise you I'll do it. But don't say you can't spend no money because we got to save for this vacation. We ain't going on no vacation. At least I ain't going with you.
Okay. So on that note, we are at the top of the hour. James, you want to close us out? or I can close out.
Your choice,
first,
my
before I
brother.
close out, I want us to give a shout out again to Miss Tarra Jackson. Miss Tarra, do you have information where you could be reached? If people want to reach out to you for additional information, for additional schooling, like you schooled us these past 2 weeks, please let us know. Let the world know where they can find you.
Easiest way to find me is go to madamoney.com, MADAMMONEY.com. All social media is Ms. Madamoney, MSMADAMMONEY. So I think I'm even on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but I think you can find me on TikTok.
Okay.
And there you can also buy my books, Financial Fornication, The 4 Financial Languages, and my recent, The Dualpreneur Bible. I'm also starting a podcast. It's going to be premiering in 2023. There are 2 podcasts. One is Financial Fornicating with Madam Money and Friends. We have those controversial cash conversations, and we have some fun financial tips. I have a hilarious co-host, Mark Kevin Fortson. We just have fun with each other and fun interviewing people about money, all things dealing with money. And then the second podcast is the Dualpreneur podcast, to give successful side gig tips to people that have side hustles, side gigs, to help them make more money.
Okay. Y'all heard her.
Looking forward.
Y'all heard her. So, Courtney, with your approval, I have a topic for next week. Ironically, Ms. Tarra touched on it, languages. But this languages is going to be love languages and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Love languages and relationship. That's our topic for next week. The Lord just put that in my spirit right now. Love languages and relationships. And our producer, don't act like you didn't hear us, because I know you did. You heard that. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the show. And again, we lost someone yet today. Twitch, the dancer that dances with Ellen DeGeneres, by apparent suicide. We've had this topic before a few weeks ago. I want to end the show by saying, guys, just because someone is smiling, you have no idea what's going on on the back end. This man, Twitch, made people happy by dancing on TikTok on his show, So You Think We Can Dance, and Ellen's show. I've been following this man for years. Always had a smile on his face, no matter what was going on. He was making the world happy, but not knowing that he was fighting with his own demons on the inside. Was never sure. Obviously, he never shared this with anybody till it was too late. So I said all that to say this, to end the show. Please hug and love on your loved ones. Just because they're smiling don't mean ain't nothing happening. Check in on them periodically. Eventually, they will share. If you're consistent in reaching out to them, to someone, they will share what's on their heart. And you never know. You could save a life. And
Tobie, I do want to say that mental health matters. So a lot of us in our communities, we don't want to address mental health. But, I see a counselor every week. I need it. I've had several losses, and it takes a toll on us and our mental health is like our physical health. It needs attention too. So mental health matters. Yes, it does. Mental health, it matters. And now, guys, and for everyone out there, it's not that this man was broke, because I looked him up. He wasn't broke. Okay, so just the point I'm trying to make here, just because you have money does not mean mental health cannot take you down, because it can. So may God please protect his family, and may God please have mercy on his soul. So I want to end the show that way. Just hug someone tonight, tell them you love them, check in with those you haven't checked in with in a while. It's important. It's important. It was a wake-up call for me this morning while I was at work. It was a wake-up call, like, my God, he's only 40. He was only 40. So, guys, enjoy the rest of the week. Stay safe, stay dry wherever you are. It's raining down here in Atlanta, so stay dry wherever you are and stay safe. So, see everybody next week. All right. Bye, James.
Thank you, Miss Jackson.
All right. Thank you.
See you later, my brother.
All right.
Blessings to all of y'all.
All right.
Have an awesome week.